A little period roundtable. Here, the course boxing teach us things. So they have subjects like border brought up at news locations. Excuse me. At news locations, certain type of victim slash hyper victim, were all locations names, and syntax was employed by a human fact human nature breaching method. The human fact human nature breaching method. For example, as the summary value and use of the summary value of the laws that were involved with the torture, the extortion, and the slavery of humanity, and using hyper additionally employing all natural differences for this syntax, racketeering, identity theft, fraud, slander method, three ways manifest. Each of the campuses I went to has roles with natures of police that are involved with internationally and with the borders. And they have doctors associated with them growing up and with other kids, where they are constantly stacking fake transcripts into databases. And this is used to constantly keep all investigators use criminally foreign influence, certain type of victim slash hyper victim that names A through Z are only allowed to be black pupils. And then further, where and how we are identity the ground, voicings, and employments actually. Say you can't understand American history or any modern history properly if one doesn't understand the breaching method that was in place. This is what I did a video on Tucker Carlson and Vladimir Putin interview. Vladimir Putin was not allowed to speak this because individual voices, even if it's a leader, no matter how powerful they get, they are not allowed to appreciate the sciences with short words, with convictions proper, individually grouped and together per applications per the sciences abridged. So there are a whole bunch of police forms involved with Venezuela and with Mexico, with the FBI involved with Hartford Hospital, New Britain Hospital. You know, all the hospitals. Hartford Hospital has a number of families from Yukon and people associated with them, with military and identities from off the campuses, increasingly using them for hyper additionally. Duke University has people involved with this too. Originally and still, tactically delusions raw, as reason experts know, black pupils. Again, we have wanted through through time. One thing that's constant is that people want not just to blame a name. They want to get through the fake theater to actual quality of fact, human nature, and care as sciences, not hiding finite details, not making them up, not, which is forcing a quality of fact, human nature that we must refer to as criminal insidiousness slash hypercriminal insidiousness, per nature's demonstration itself. Black pupils, we will address this as a predicate acts delivery system method slash S. I'm not a lawyer. I taught best box things. The lawyers are recorded, already painted in corners. All sides of criminal and civil cases. Lawyers at the same time. Their sources, their family members. The difference of that. The same thing with the interbranch family members. The difference of that. Their teachers, their campuses' names, the conversations they had. This is all having been used remotely and changed. But and where you can observe it is where people deny this. The people who are against the leaking of, they know that we have a whole bunch of countries here shared on and off campuses, and ways they don't know too. And they're using phrases like, they're using words, all words, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, let alone phrases like criminal justice. And then how this is affected is recorded But you guys have to follow mandated law. They get away with it from off campuses. They do this trick to leave it like so, set up the sense and sensibilities, for example. This preaching method was sophistication here before we had sophistication, pretending passions, emotions while they need to fake conversations to do it. Hartford Hospital, Hartford only has 350 streets. On the campus of Hartford Hospital, the Institute of Living was founded in 1822. It is like the church's version of a diaspora, interstates, where and how it is relative, where and how. This is also Hartford slash Wethersfield, West Hartford, and suburbs. The suburbs can Bloomfield, and the exception nature of the river. This preaching method used and uses descriptions of instances and or of names and or of values per how it is exploiting the identity of value slash value progression we are. Vaccines, I teach you of, service course, and things. So in other words, psychiatry has all kinds of theories and delusions and rolls with juxtaposed natures of organized crime. And this can be discerned as actually what's recorded. And they have gotten away with it for that certain type of victim slash hyper victim that was used remotely and is used remotely. For example, regarding what Jim Crow laws were about and are about, there it is that phrasing is used to measure and maintain individuals grouped and all together, voicings of American history, absent of and incapable of the appreciation of the hyper-evidential Black pupils. So we will address this as a predicate acts delivery system method. And addressing it this way, we could address and discern where and how all groupings of criminal enterprises and of their relativity have been tactically ulterior from how nature is communicating, has communicated with all group differences. And so these, relative to this theater, how people could get away with pretending not to discern, where and how little kids in New York City, let alone adults, could have the ability to discern the lies and the delusions of scientific experts with passions and emotions regarding the convictions they make, regarding the theories or speculation. In other words, the positive and negative treatments they make, let alone the convictions, as identities of criminal insidiousness nature, as a certain type of victim, predator slash hyper predator that was only allowed to be manifest. This preaching method measured and maintained what Madison left us to understand with our founders. See president slash chief too. All our founders had to hide their motivations. There are proofs that Native Americans, a portion of them, in that fight was, no matter who you were, to have the hyper native pure system for individual, group, difference slash S, and humanity, species volume, invisible but still discernible, appreciated with the other species bodies this way. And because it's what comes with it it means to appreciate the hyper invisible but still discernible. This is why we appreciate more than one name for the verb. This is why the gerunds and the verbal are an appreciation of the participle natures. Is why there are two, because there are three distinct ways, grouped three ways The three distinct identities of hyper and visible, but still discernible, are bound. And one of the ways is per how we are appreciating the participle natures, no matter which one is used. How we are appreciating how the identity of any verb, no matter if it's used as a main verb or what, it is greater than, it is more finite than itself, and is active relativity to and as itself. But this being weird, each self, it's like the tip of your fingernail is yourself, while not by any way. This has to do with the semi-nature, complete nature, relationship to itself. And there are proofs, for example, that the ancient English was revealed where the name of the colon was actually named the victory, because of how it is the discernment of two independent two two independent natures, and how the semicolon is with the one shadow of possession. There are proofs that the ancients preferred is more probable and more practical. Increasingly, is demonstrable. Reading the rules of English grammar from the nature of English itself. I have been repeating because I didn't write it down yet. I was going to write a book that starts off. There are many little books on English grammar, but not like this are these. Or should I say, there are many little books on English grammar, but not like this are they. Then I looked up a recipe, and it has there are many something like, and it seemed like that. Like in other words, I had the idea before that though, and I'm just noting that because they have the nature of the debate regarding if what they're doing with police surveillance equipment or not, also used for way worse, some ways, in some ways where it appears not to be. That's because this preaching method employed things like murders, things like negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, things like predicate acts with facts roles, and natures like criminal insidiousness, wrongdoers, wrongdoing itself. Before our founders were born, only capable of being, only allowed to be. And that means, more and more hype or additional true reasons for human names, to use other human names, in ways that are effectively used to screen the involvements with all those instances and names, not just of this human fact tribute nature breaching method, but of a hyper archetypal criminal enterprise, discernible and per recorded uses of self value rules of predicate acts with facts methods, and how while tactically delusions wrought and self value, even though that hurts everyone, like the nature of communications and debate regarding when people try to use hyper evidential regarding all the ways we can discern that American history and tellings of other countries' histories. There are inclusions at our campuses. Each campus I went to has roles with police forms involved internationally, including military police. Now, Middlesex Community College has roles with the training of these police forms. People involved with former director of the FBI, with also and a whole bunch of courts, judges, on off the state judicial branch offices, conjunctions and adjacents to it, because the breaching method used and uses them remotely as victims slash hyper victims, predators slash hyper predators, forcing quality of fact human nature collusions with the agencies, foreign and domestic, fabricating information, using the news to hide lie progressions. See, the news is supposed to get they're directed to get licenses, not just so they won't lie, but so they will hide lies. And they're demonstrating it has their roles with all these different countries. And Central Connecticut State University is involved with making confessions too, where and how they make groups black pupils, tactical ulterior from how groups are simultaneously being as they are, including when they make them up. And their motivations, narratives, are increasingly used to screen this. That's why we have to stay focused on the names from off campuses. And we have to stay focused on how it is discernible. There is a hyper foreign. There is criminally hyper foreign influence juxtaposed with only allowed to be manifest formally and other, archetypal criminal foreign influences. The natures of them and the natures of them we know. The names of them we know, including the countries A through Z as archetypal criminal enterprises, incapable of defending their definitions of their countries, our countries' names, and of affording short words with convictions proper relative to what is constant and variable. And so they cannot follow mandated law. They have the FBI is coaching people to make up things with them, per how they fabricate transcripts of Wethersfield police and other police forms. Whiting forensics and state police of Connecticut and interstates are involved with Middlesex Community College, with Central Connecticut State University, also with people at UConn, involved with a whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital's Institute of Living, who have been involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, little stacking fake things in databases, fake ties and natures of ties, roles, also from off campuses. This is how they get people to talk junk about other people or pretend to be against it and not even realize it, only to force that quality of fact, human nature, criminally foreign influence. Criminal insidiousness slash hypercriminal insidiousness. I'm not even a lawyer. It is hyper evidentially recorded that and how lawyers change and keep out what is the actually communicated by people per phenomenon associated with where and how the identity of communications. For example, it is the identity of what is said, but it is simultaneously greater than, more finite than, and with active relativity to it as well at the same time. And this is a phenomenon that this human fact, human nature breaching method exploited and exploits. So it has the North and the South as two sides that never understood themselves because they never were a self. The North and the South have roles with psychiatry, interbranch, and with families tied to them, with the phenomenon of directions not to speak about medical information, not to look into medical databases, where and how can be observed the border issues at America, at India, at Ukraine, at Russia. There are sophistication that they don't have the means to counter suits and ties, counters to that, and exceptions as collusions. They don't have the capacity to afford convictions per what the religious books say is the only part that is supposed to be defended. right up front with their books. The experts on those books and the counters to them have collusion slash S per phenomena, syntax of phenomena with phenomena, and where and how they are being and have been used remotely as all formal conviction natures, theory natures, and research and data, the nature of debate. This would have been revealed, but people have been pretending that people don't know what they're talking about when they speak about how and why James Madison, as the face of our founders, had to get George Washington to agree to help counter extort other founders and force a country, a nature of unity, still collusion slash S forced with the slavery method of ourselves. It's not just black against black, and because of a color white. And there were white people enslaved too. This was sustained to keep blamed on other things, others ourselves, with a hyper archetypal criminal enterprise knew nature was going to keep demonstrating. The only reason this appears to be debatable is because you guys with criminally foreign influence, fact, human nature, quality aspects of nature, prevent the quality of fact, human nature at locations slash S, everywhere the species body is, when people speak. And you have roles changing where people speak, self-valuing roles with that. So Venezuela and Mexico and America, they have psychiatry tied to hospitals with mental health. And they have roles with all kinds of natures of organized crime with that, but it's just concentrated there. Also, the branches of government have been roles with them, and the prisons like tied to them. Note the state of Connecticut corrections offices has roles with names with the markets positions too, and they ones next to them, security involved with it. All this stuff as conjuncts. The differences between that, these are the ones with all sides in criminal and civil cases. The judges' families, the prosecutors' families, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, insidiousness and logic and influences of people A through Z, forcing sequence shifts, finite fact, human nature, collusion slash S, uses of the wrong outcomes in cases, and lies about the actual outcomes in cases put by the news and things where they are constantly using and having used the right to lie where they don't have the right to lie. So increasingly, Central Connecticut State University also has roles with social media, how they influence them too. Because they have to hide, they have predicate acts with facts in all sides of cases leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context and sense. Harper courts and New Britain courts were recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed with people from Wethersfield into branch, on off the state corrections offices, on off the state judicial branch offices. They are increasingly involved with criminally foreign influence uses of West Hartford locations with their family members and their roles with and as people associated with that, tied to Canada, tied to Mexico, Venezuela, Italy, their roles with Koreans. UConn has roles with Koreans and people from other countries involved with psychiatry, and interstates like Duke University has roles with criminally foreign influence uses of election locations with the people involved with this. Probation officers used by courts involved with body dumping spots and child offenders, leaders of kids, who then those victims are adults now involved with principal child abuser, Principal Bean. But I caught him involved with other natures of organized crime in untimely death rolls with and uses of them. that were also singularly used. These are people involved with the World Trade Center, also involved with this interstate. So they bring up words like borders and they make subject treatments used to measure and maintain. No one's going to say anything about the collusions they have at the locations next to the news locations, too. Increasingly next to Fox Connecticut News, people are recording, confessing, demonstrating, confirming roles remotely using other police. They switched names with Weathersfield Police and the FBI and state police in collusions, also with home break-ins and wire crimes with people with the same families and connections as people. One of the things that connects them is how they stacked predicate acts with facts, with syntax and fake things in databases at the campus I went to, and faked evaluation of that integrity and relativity and um, narratives and motivations planting. So these are people criminally foreign influence slash hyper criminally foreign influence that that are retired and standing, that are for that are involved with the difference too, used remotely, criminally foreign influence of how on the campuses is half rolls with it itself and off of it. It makes hyper additional motivation. See now where we had obligations to allow free speech, it would have revealed that and how the psychiatry industry has criminally foreign influence, tactically delusion wrought summaries of American history and of world history, and they've been also to hide this, just attaching people to fake conversations with themselves, also preemptively, because it is also with judges and prosecutors and their family members, the nurses, the security with their locations. This is why and how it was self-valued. Hartford Hospital's roles leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context and since. With all sides, they forced the collusions and since. There was a officer named Hunter, and they're switching names, so it might be a different officer. But I noted him on the campus of Central Connecticut State University. He's one of the ones involved with a Dean Judd and a Dean Alford, involved with confessions and demonstrations to me, verbally and non-verbally, about people involved with various murders and shootings at the time and untimely deaths, and confessions, which were also communications of their tied roles with wire crimes with the same house slash us near me, and their roles with people with Venezuela and Mexico and their cousins. They have extended cousins involved with the World Trade Center and the court next to it. They plant fake things in courts with former director of the FBI. They use the word maturity, because these are people constantly planting fake evidences and slandering people, trying to make them look bad at locations with the as a whole bunch of people at Hartford Hospital under the guise of healthcare. They're stealing millions of dollars every year while there were only 350 streets in Hartford. They owe you, people, just that side of the hospital. It's not the real hospital. See, they make them speak as one because we have lawyers still criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. They have remote uses. Don't leave it self-valued. I know that this preaching method can be discerned where self-valued, everyone blames Jim Crow laws and other things other than themselves, besides the breaching method. It uses that to measure and maintain. Bullying logic. While the schools pretend to be against bullying, they're sexually harassing the little boys and girls sickly distinctly, and using functionally effectively is the breaching method, with them self-valuing roles, how sickly non-distinctly is left out. The school resource officers have roles with phenomenon next to the news locations. This is the proof that this is interstates, because these are also the people with the World Trade Center used remotely this way. Increasingly, people next to the neighbors of the victims of the World Trade Center, and those people are involved with the FBI Director Robert Luskin and names on the state judicial branch officers. who've been planting evidences, identity theft, frauds, play fake motivations with a whole bunch of different countries, all along Route 175 and Main Street, where it goes right by Webb House. Involved also with where they changed the name of that 2 times and put fake motivations where their motivations are irrelevant, because this is about the hyper extraterritorial and extraterritorial and criminal insidiousness slash hyper criminal insidiousness, black pupils. Our founders left us to understand the natures and methods of predicate acts, the names on Church Street in Old Weathersfield and on off Webb House we are involved with, on off the campuses too, on off Trinity College and CCSU, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed Weathersfield school leaders through time. They're influenced from off campuses by judges, prosecutors, and their family members with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, foreign and domestic military, and their extended family members putting fake things in databases, roles of wire crime acts and methods, whole methods of them, predicate acts methods, black people. These are answers to why and how. They could pretend not to realize the relativity of how we have black people as white survive, and they have no right to pretend passions and emotions. We need the right to do this. They've been attaching kids and their family members, and then through time, then there as adults, to faked and changed behavior and conversations, whole fake conversations and behavior. They've been lying to my sister since I was a kid. I barely ever had conversations with her. And with people involved with child offenders and rape threats and sexual abuses, that because they have the natures of investigators who need instances to keep things blamed on other things, others. Because these are names of UConn has roles with Hartford Hospital, where they're training people. They have roles with various natures of, you know, the military. They have all different natures of organized crime. They have people involved with the veterans' homes, next to the veterans' homes, next to the hospital. They have the businesses and homes and names associated with that as names intercultural and intracultural, with racketeering with that, with where and how they worse than war crimes, with where and how they assign their differences, a part of their excuses, where they can't handle convictions proper, where they can't, which is where too. These are people out of the state corrections offices who have been roles with all names on all sides of criminal and civil cases, lawyers, and the court's names, putting fake transcripts, fake evidences, using cases to make it look like people are tied to each other. Like basically the only time I ever saw Ray Cololo on the Weathersfield Shopping Center. We went to get, he told me to get a Mechanics Bank card. And it has something to do with their roles with KKK and black themed. Also, women judges, black and white women judges, involved with switching names, police forms, and falsified police reports and confessions regarding this. Intercities connected, and their uses of time criminally foreign influenced, and their uses of questions criminally foreign influenced. So the FBI cannot be trusted because they have collusions with Weathersfield Police and other police departments, increasingly with people with named Cololo and teachers of theirs, and people at the campuses they went. Johnson and Wales and Quinnipiac University and Bryant University. They have rules of people planting evidences, sequence shifts, fake ties, tactically juxtaposed at all of our campuses, and where and how really the border is manifest. See cell nuclear, cell body, cell wall slash S. See appreciation of the water and its elements. See the appreciation of the gases and their elements simultaneously. The hyper invisible but still discernible. Period. New York City cries and pamphleteers. In other words, all you have to do is follow mandated law. And in other words, change will not come through the voices who are speaking for value first. You guys are putting the identity of physics smaller than grouped ways and as simultaneous voicings tactical ulterior from how it is. So it's important to follow mandated law. Round table, please. Campus Marcius calls you through the breeze. In other words, forget about the crack. Let's get these crackpots off the campuses on one name and sequence. Each campus I went to has ties to a Ray Reynolds and a Harris family. Increasingly planting evidences, including and Rick C. and Fablione said it's with a Brian Silver and that's as one of the ones with the judges and prosecutors and with his neighbors involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, planting evidences, wire crimes, per my neighbors and per Weathersfield Police, even though they didn't use his name, Rick C. and Faglione. These are people with Connecticut District Court, New Britain Superior Court, and Hartford courts that were planting evidences intercities through time. As people increasingly collusions on off the state judicial branch offices and spots next to it with names involved, criminally foreign influence uses of the World Trade Center, negotiations at the other sides of war is still by the at the other side of the whip, which was by the breaching method employed. And that is still blamed on other things and or on others and or on selves. And so it is important to get Hartford Hospital on paper, one name and sequence. So there's a Christine Sioka who has men and women who pretended they had conversations with me too, from Hartford Hospital, who have roles with houses on Church Street in Old Weathersfield with Hartford Hospital with the former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, planting with a whole bunch of different countries, evidences on off campuses through intercities through time. Fred Grouget and others recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, as Facebook did, and Weathersfield Police. They have people with Hartford Hospital with the name Apted, further involved with sexual and medical offenders of kids and overt criminal enterprises with a whole bunch of different countries. I don't know the Paul Apted. They try to take a picture and make it look like I know them. These are people involved with my neighbors, a Timothy O'Brien and a Ray Collo, per the Phil Collo. And he's got involvements with the Phil Collo. A Phil Collo, I never saw him with a Phil Collo. But a Phil Collo was one of the people they recorded, confessed, he keeps coming, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, conferred by others. He's been planting evidences with people with Whiting Forensics, also involved with the people with this Joshua Julian and his neighbors, involved with the intelligence community, criminally foreign influence, spreading lies about me everywhere. These are people who they used to spread lies about me at the places when I was in the past. Like next to the school I went, the first school I ever went in West Hartford, Christina Sioka and people with the name Mendez, involved with the intelligence community, with people with Orlando, Florida, and with Miami, Florida, also with the name Scalora and tied to them, a whole bunch of different countries, involved with medical offenders of kids, and the World Trade Center attack, and WFSB with predicate X with them. And their rules planting evidences next to the WFSB with names like Mazzucato and per you don't even I don't even know them. They make confessions to others and they demonstrate it's true. Where they use the right to lie, where they don't have the right to lie. Where there was a James Comey as a former director of the FBI, and there was a Robert Luskin as a former director of the FBI, former standing chairperson on the Racketeering Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, Black Pupils, as one of the ones involved with this. All along, there's a guy who was filming me through the shower stall in Rocky Hill on Elm Street. And years before that, a whole bunch of people tied to that Elm Street have roles planting evidences, timing, putting the map of where I was going to walk, go in my campuses. They're hiding life progressions from the little kids they used to pretend fake conversations with me by doing little magic tricks and sequence shifts in databases. Fake communications with me and my family is one of the things they've been building upon with a gold family, increasingly involved with people for writing forensics in the before I was a kid, when I was a little kid, when I was a young man, and now increasingly they have roles with various natures of federal criminals and crime scenes as their roles. Has something to do with their roles with ski locations and developments in Connecticut with the FBI and other agencies that are criminally foreign influenced and involved with medical offenders, with mayors, and people tied to mayors planting evidences too tied to that. They have torture methods roles, extortion method roles. They can't afford to have discerned what our founders left us to communicate about this. Black pupils. Here! Get them on to one name and sequence. Get them on paper. And have them speak about what I say clear or unclear. And there are the hyper evidential there. Have them speak about my behavior. Then putting fake behavior. I'll show you how I caught them doing this. Hartford Hospital had been planting evidences on my street since I was a kid with people from other areas and people next to their location as people intercultural and intracultural roles with KKK, black themed with this. Part of the way they get away with that so overtly / insidiously, even while sexual, and how they mix the sexual with that. Like with this Joshua Julian has roles with sexual offenders, sickly distinctly, because he has medical offenders and people with Hartford Hospital and their security further involved with him and his neighbors with that, and the military and their roles with the buildings next to the state capitol. So something about that, their roles with that, planting evidences and with people with drugs and medicines who are allowed to have it, but they use the right to lie where they don't have the right to lie. Their roles with wire crimes, their roles with identity theft, fraud, slander, and just sabotaging people's relationships. And at each age, a factory nature, all natures of relationships too. I didn't know I didn't hang around with the people from my high school when I was a freshman. They were the intelligence community, foreign and domestic. They had people pretended me to fake locations and fake ties and natures of ties to people who were associated with my neighbors, involved with the wire crimes of the Wethersfield police, and with the names involved with poisons and threats with their doctors, fabricating information with them too. They run in high lie progressions. Their roles with fire departments, fire campuses. Their roles with Russians with this, with nationals, etc. They're not going to hide behind this. They have their roles with all along Route 3, or people who use my name, Anthony Wall. Please get them on paper, one name and sequence. I want a response from the principal child defender's confessions. They've been using right to lie where they don't have the right to lie. And they have their sexual groups where they start too. Then you attack the sexual groups. They have all their differences into branch, including their roles with sexual groups and the people that counter them as collusion, because that is used to measure and maintain. Because these same names have roles with foreign bodies, not the way they're pretending. They're not legitimately with unmarked police forms, and with the acting coach professors involved with news locations, planting evidences at corners of streets, like on Church Street in Old Wethersfield. A whole bunch of names that know my name, I don't know their name, tied to the name Cololo, involved with the foreign and domestic involved here, and uses of words like border, black pupils. You see, discern the hypernative pure. So in other words, discern how we could just go like that and agree and without even any cost at all. There's already land that's like, and we can make temporary locations. Because if you look at New York City in your mind, understanding what the suburbs were designed for before our founders were born, what was entrenched north and south to keep used remotely what was syntactically manifest, only capable of being relative to that. A quality of fact treatment nature as criminal insidiousness nature / hypercriminal insidiousness, only capable of being fact treatment nature qualities, aspects, plural, in natures, plural, hyper additionally, the perfect screen to keep per a method, keeping blamed on other things, others, or selves. With its body, a hyperarchetypal criminal enterprise, and or its method, a human fact treatment nature breaching method cause. It also needs that to keep blamed on other things, others, or selves. Start making convictions proper. You start discerning theory, not just theory, with summaries of history, of names uses. You start discerning criminally foreign influence, fact, treatment, nature, quality, aspects, nature, and collusion, /S. See suits and ties, counters, and exceptions as one array with difference used tactical ulterior from how we have black pupils and why we have black pupils, white survivors, the same color eyes, different color eyes, same time. Control your mind and control your heart. Control your mind, but free your heart. Vaccines. That's those things. Round tables, clear. Vaccine. It's time. Let Romulus be Romulus. Train Romulus appear. So in other words, this is a means. We have means to say, whoa, we're worried about economic problems, and the suburbs were designed by those crazy laws furthering bodies before our founders were born, and that's still being blamed on other things other than themselves. All the hyper archaeological evidences that show that a breaching method is responsible for all kinds of quality aspects in nature associated with the landscape theater as it actually is, with the nature of debate regarding that as it actually is. Black pupils. Yeah. So the ground has a role in identity of relationship to water. For example, when I say to itself, that is, I mean all parts, its way, as what is natural, but not natural as criminal insidiousness. Criminal insidiousness, natures of positives, like truths that can be used for lies. This breaching method employed such to screen its identity relationship to itself. Had computers been taught properly and honestly, we would all know instantly. We were all capable in what we're discerning anyway. For example, when we hear the Cartesian coordinate system, which is distinct from the lines of latitude and longitude. Algebra was revealed in ancient times by that which revealed this republic for which we stand, which was revealed before sciences became criminally foreign influence in latter semi-ancient times. Prepare our minds, but for your hearts. Vaccines. So we have behavior racketeering. We have They have psychopath definitions of their integrity, of why and how. Their definitions of their calm behavior, and they have definitions of their aggressive behavior, only allowed to be heard, or that body is sensed, even if that body is a majority of people, even if that body is a majority of countries, black pupils. Follow me the law, please. Judge Napolitano. These are names next to Fox Connecticut News. Where and how Fox Connecticut News won't help. The WFSB attached me to fake conversations with themselves about the World Trade Center. And they have roles of Weathersfield police have been switching names on different police reports, falsified. Then they use the method when we get there to talk to the court where they say they made a mistake, and then they put the charge, but there's no writing, and they're switching names. They confess to switch names. These are extortion acts and methods, and their motivations are also employed by the breaching method manifest here and there. So yeah, they have rules with DACA and the different trade agreements, and people don't know how to speak for money because the breaching method employed it. You have to understand that first. And there's a distinction between money, value, and potentials. That it's not even debatable. If someone wants to debate this and with and as the voices are holding money, they're gonna be demonstrating where they owe people money for getting involved with debating what's forcing a quality of fact nature that can't defend itself and afford convictions proper per what is constant and variable its way. Black people, any pray for us to hear. Vaccine, the means appear. Evolution's fruits, gifts, means out of nowhere. Follow man the law. So this is also, they have criminally foreign influence readings of religious books for how they have positions at the campuses as a certain type of victim / hyper victim, where this breaching method employed. The sciences, like their abridgments, self-valued and not protracted. Because when you're little, you understand that the sciences are abridged because it is confessed to you, especially if you are one who is appreciating or was appreciating how Native Americans individually grouped together had a crazy breaching method upon them. It seems simple to appreciate, but people can't afford to have it appreciated relative to all that's actually tied to where and how actually summaries of history and of names have stayed so dishonest and tactically delusions wrought. And uses, reliances upon quality aspects of nature of fact nature as criminal insidious, as criminally foreign influence, fact nature, quality aspects of nature. So I'm not a lawyer. The people in the cartoon value nature system, like inside those buildings in New York City, the cartoon value nature's version of it, they're not lawyers. But now, just like the whole world is extorted, that semi-ancient times. Now the whole world, the cartoon value nature system is also counter-extorted. But Little Rap Guy and friends, they might be able to get the whole cartoon value nature system this way to get everyone back on the hypernative way that reveals evolution's fruits, gifts, means out of nowhere. That grounds identity of relationship to itself. That reveals evolution's gifts, fruits, gifts, means out of nowhere. Especially where and how we are. The fact of nature is quality. Many ways. So this is measured and maintained, appreciated, not just wrongly, but criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrought by all formal voices. So all locations, areas, and states have fact nature, quality aspects of nature. that want to calmly approach subjects, have communications. That's prevented. People are getting away with pretending that things are debatable that aren't. How they get away with it, it's recorded. It's already recorded too. Now you guys have to just follow Mandated law, and we're going to walk right in to the Constitution abridgments, and the Constitution unabridged is going to take conjunction / hyperconjunction, an ancient gaming system takes off. In other words, the economic systems, we're going to have to put a hyperstability there, because all definitions of stability have stayed criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw. Nature only has criminal insidiousness. And so this is pantheism / hyperpantheism. Here, let's all prepare. And follow mandated law for this Hartford hospital. I have fake conversations with me about religion too. They're involved with torture of me and others, many others. They've been stealing millions of dollars, more than there are. There are only like 350 streets in Hartford, Connecticut. All kinds of roles with all kinds of criminal and civil cases, all kinds of natures of organized crime that the judges and prosecutors' families have, with the names next to schools too. See, when people say, "Oh, I'm from a neighborhood, it's quiet in this neighborhood," that's a certain type of victim / hyper victim doesn't realize they're being used remotely. These murders are connected between our cities. There is time use / there's maintenance to that evil that uses the difference of overt criminal enterprises, private ones, insidiousness of logic and names A through Z, people associated with corners of streets. At the same time, news and names of interbranch, putting fake things in databases, because it can't handle what's actually recorded. And that nature of care, and that is the Constitution unabridged. Quality of fact, human nature doesn't leave out the finest, small, finite detail. In other words, that's how you protect money and value and worth, by admitting it's never been safe. All psychopaths speak for money and counter them. Oh, this person's got a big. They're trying to like. In other words, the locations every state have a whole bunch of different countries involved with difference used remotely by a breaching method never stopped. That's where the problems with the crazy drugs and murders, and half the time those people at the forensics locations are just putting fake things. The medical people are. Their family members' roles. This is not by accident. Sandy Hook has roles with this too. People on off the state capitol too, increasingly used remotely with the names next to them. Fear. Please, someone get Judge Napolitano to have Fox News and WFSB and WTNH respond for the confessions of the principal child offender and the police that have those switching names and forging names with the ones I caught with them, planting evidences, enforcing that with the police chief Cintron too. 1 or more years ago, involved with the same house / S, involved with wire crimes with them, falsified police reports, attaching little kids to fake communications with them and with others, and about organized crime things too. Their little roles with such. It's not legitimately with their roles with the border, with these names. Yeah.